What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting battle video to share with you guys. Today we're directly going to be comparing the Spyderco Para 3 in Maxamet and the Spyderco Sage 1 in Maxamet. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different elements. I'm also going to be discussing a little bit the Sage 5 lightweight with the compression lock, because each variant of Sage has a different lock. So in a way, we're going to be comparing these two, and then I'm also going to be talking about ideally, which variant makes the most sense between the two, because there are also multiple variants of the Para 3. I will link all available variants of these knives right down in the description so that you can pick and choose the one that's best for you. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. You can check out the link for my Patreon right down in the description. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and do measurements here real quick. If you've never watched a battle video, it's basically a long discussion. I don't like to do too much structuring because it's not fun to do. The Sage 1 in Maxim is coming in at just shy of 7 1/4. It's like 7.2 inches overall. Blade length in this guy is coming in right at, if not just barely shy of 3. It's looking like right at 3 inches. Of blade, and then your cutting edge is coming in at about 2.75. The Spyderco Para 3 is coming in also, the exact measurement, just ever so slightly shy of 7 1/4. Blade length on this guy is actually coming in at, it's looking like 2.9. What's funny is I've measured these both a million times, and the truth is that the Spyderco Para 3 is actually coming in slightly under 3 inches of blade, and the Sage is coming in right at 3 inches. Why does that matter? Because the legal limit in a lot of areas is 3 inches. So in exactly the right or wrong circumstance, that can be kind of a bummer. Blade length on the Spyderco Para 3 is coming in just shy of 2.75, probably, or cutting edge, about 2.6 inches of cutting edge, thanks to a very generous forward choil. What we're looking at between these two is G10 and steel liners. Excuse me. As you can see, there is a little bit of milling on one side and actually quite a bit more on the other if we're looking at the Sage. Spyderco Para 3, again, G10 and countersunk liners. Not really any additional milling, but I think there's less of a countersunk liner in there than the Sage. Let's go ahead and weigh each of them individually. One moment here. We'll do the Spyderco Para 3 first. 3.49 ounces on the G10 Para 3. And 3.32 ounces on the Sage 1. Technically, the Sage 1 is lighter. I don't know about you guys, but that is a trivial difference for me. It's not something I'm really going to care about too much. Because I have the Sage 5 here. What's the difference between Sage 1 and Sage 5? Sage 1 is a liner lock. The Sage 5 is a compression lock. Each individual Sage between, like from Sage 1 to Sage 5, each one is a different style of lock. I like the liner lock and compression lock versions the best. Those seem to be the most popular. Those are the ones we're talking about today. And those are the ones that are largely available. Lightweight, Sage 5 coming in at 2.89 ounces. I wish I had a lightweight Spyderco Para 3 here to show you guys, but I think it's safe to assume that it's roughly going to come in at about the same weight. All right. So, internals, as far as what these guys are working with on the pivot, both the Sage 5 and Para 3 are using, if you guys can see in there, phosphor bronze washers, and it feels like it. Phosphor bronze is great, helps keep debris and dirt and stuff out of the pivot. It's probably going to be the most durable setup that you can, ask for any pocket knife. As far as deployment goes on these guys, both of them have easily accessible holes, so you can do the thumb flick, you can do the reverse flick, you can do the sort of Spidey drop thing, which is not usually the most convenient way to deploy it. The liner lock versus the compression lock thing, that's, in a lot of ways, that's one of the biggest things between these two knives. I like to look at it as a whole process. From pulling it from your pocket, which we're going to talk about the pocket clips, to deploying it, to releasing the blade, right? In this case, we're going to have to do that, it looks like. I feel like, yeah, it will drop. to closing it, right? So pull, fire, close. 1, 2, 3, right? After the pull, 1, 2. Usually, I mean, I can get it in 1, right? The liner lock is good. I know a lot of people are like, why are you getting hung up on such a trivial detail? I use the word trivial a lot because it seems to come up a lot in the knife world. Why are you getting hung up on such a trivial thing, right? The number of movements from the time, you know, when you pull it, to deploying it, to closing it again, right? Well, because, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, after the novelty of a new knife purchase wears off, you're simply left with the tool. The tool is meant to do a specific job. So the more times, you know, the more movements there are from the time that you realize you need your knife to using it to putting it back away, right? I mean, even if it's just a little bit, it's that much more frustrating, right? It's just a mild annoyance that I have to do one additional movement. I've always said that I like knives that allow you to complete the task with the least amount of movements, right? If I have something that I've got, you know, that I, you know, if I've got to accomplish, and part of, you know, that accomplishing that said task requires that I use my knife, I'm not gonna pull my knife out and oh boy and get, you know, and no, I'm just gonna get it out and use it, right? I don't want to screw around with it. I don't want to fuss around with it. I just want to use it, right? So the truth is that both of these are incredibly easy to manipulate, right? And get out and use, right? The Sage technically just has one additional movement, and it's because of, if you've ever handled a compression lock, you're gonna know. A lot of people are going to get frustrated. They're going to be like, no, you're splitting hairs there. Like, it can be done in one movement. See, there's more, let's call it finger time. There's more time spent, more contact, and time spent closing this knife than the Para 3. It's very minimal, but there is. If you've ever handled the compression lock and manipulated it, you know it's basically just, I keep messing it up because we're at an angle and I only have this much space in here, right? So this isn't a natural angle that I'm holding this knife. But generally speaking, the Para 3 can be closed like that. Open, use, close, and that's it. Goes back in your pocket. So I would say, counting those movements, out of the pocket, deploy, use, close, Para 3's got it. But, again, we're going to be splitting hairs here. This pocket clip does not come on the Para 3. What normally comes on the Para 3 is this pocket clip. And this pocket clip is okay. It's got a bill, right? It doesn't carry perfect in terms of depth. I've always said that a drop and a swoop, constant rise, is the best for coming in and out of the pocket with one hand. Why does that matter? I don't want to have to dedicate 2 hands to put my knife back in my pocket. You guys know what I'm talking about, where you got to hold the pocket, out, and you got to push the thing in and lift and do that. If it's got a bill that's got like a set maximum height, right? It's not going to continuously rise to where you can't. If it's a ramp, you can just push it into your pocket and it's going to rise to meet the thickness. If it's got a bill that comes straight out, it might squish into the lip of the seam, and then you gotta hold it down and push the knife, right? It's trivial. It's a mild inconvenience, but it's still something I gotta consider. Look at the knives we're looking at here, guys. These are 2 massive legendary EDC champions. If you don't know, I'm not pulling 2 random knives out of the ocean of knives that are out there. No, this is already hailed as an incredible knife, and so is this, right? We're putting 2 champions head to head right here. So I have to nitpick all these little teeny tiny elements. That's what you guys come to, you know, watch on this channel anyway. It's got a bill. But so does this one. For whatever reason, though, maybe it's the lip, how it's rounded. The Sage, the wire clip, right, which is the same wire clip that comes on this guy. Sage 5 lightweight, and the Spyderco Para 3 lightweight. It's the same thing. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this pocket clip seems to fight my pants just a little bit more than this guy. I don't know why. Right now, I'm in sweatpants, so pushing this knife into my pocket and pulling it back out, no problem. Let's try the Spyderco Para 3, even though that isn't the one that we're talking about. And it's okay, too. It's okay. It wants to fight me a little bit more. I always have to attach a pocket clip like this. So is one really more convenient than the other? I mean, both the standard pocket clip on the Para 3, which I'm just showing the PM2 for an example, and the wire clip. I think overall the pocket clip on the Sage 5, I'm sorry, the Sage 1 that you're looking at here in Maxamet. Not all Sage 1s are in Maxamet, by the way. These two are just in Maxamet, so we're comparing these two. And believe me, we're going to talk about blade steel. Pocket clip that comes on the Sage 1 and Sage 5, whether you're talking about, you know, the carbon fiber Sage 5 or this FRN Sage 5 or the Spyderco Para 3 lightweight, which is the same thing, versus the standard pocket clip that you get on the American Spyderco's PM2 Para 3, right? So close. It's impossible to say which one's going to be more convenient in and out of the pocket, but this clip is just a little bit better. I mean, because it carries a little bit deeper, it's a little bit more rounded. It's generally in a better position amidst all the models, right? In my opinion, you pretty much have to do a Lynch clip or an MXG deep carry clip on the G10 version of the Spyderco Para 3, which is going to add cost to it. And these versions of these knives are already more expensive. But, you know, to end that whole line there, out of the pocket, deploy, use, and put away, Para 3 is plain and simple more convenient than the liner lock version. If you're comparing to the Sage 5 liner lock, it's exactly the same, right? So, if we're talking about Sage 5, lightweight, it's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. Let's talk about overall fit and finish. Truthfully, guys, they're both incredible. I don't really have a problem with either of these. My Para 3 came perfect, and this Sage 1 and Maxamet also came perfect. Now, one of these is made in Taiwan. This is Taichung, Taiwan. And one of these is made in the United States. There's been a lot of debate over, like, Spyderco, for anybody who doesn't know, Spyderco has factories in Japan, Taiwan, China, Italy, and the United States, at least as far as I know. Each one has its own level of fit and finish. The Chinese line, that's typically is the budget line. Fit and finish isn't all that great, but those are the least expensive ones. I honestly haven't handled any of the ones from the Italian line. The Japan factory does like the Endura, the Indela, the Delica, and the Dragonfly and all that stuff, right? They're pretty good. They're all right. They're kind of mid-range. And then you get to the Taiwan and the American ones, right? The American ones tend to be a little bit less complex. Like the Python and the Drunken and the Spidey Chef all come out of the Taiwan line, and they seem to be a little bit more polished. But overall functionality, lockup, fit and finish, and stuff like that, there are actually arguments out there as to which ones are better. Between these two, pretty much exactly the same. They're centered. They're smooth. Sorry, I should have opened them on camera there. Solid lockup. You're just going to have to take my word for it, right? This guy's tumbled. This guy's got the satin lines, right? Spyderco in general, if they're going to use a steel like Maxamet, or really any steel, they're going to get the heat treat right. Spyderco is not a company where we need to question the heat treat. We've seen over and over and over again from channels that test stuff like this that Spyderco generally does it right. So I'm not going to question their heat treat on Maxamet. I know that the American line tends to not have the highest quality screws. I've dealt with that before, taking apart my, past PM2s and Manix 2s. Yeah, the screws strip. These appear to be a little bit higher quality, and personally, I just prefer a button head screw anyway. It seems like they are a little bit deeper, so the head can sink in there a little bit better. What we have on the Spyderco Para 3, you can get my tools right down into the description. They are very inexpensive and very recommendable. Sorry, that was a T9. We have, T10. And that is the case for the pivot on the Para 3, but not the case for the pivots on the Sage. As far as the handle screws go, they're going to be T8 for the Spyderco Para 3, which I'll demonstrate here. Let's just make sure we're looking at the right, yeah. So T8, it does sink in well enough, right? On this guy, we've got T8, T8, and even T8 on the pocket clip screw. On the Spyderco Para 3, we have 3 T6 screws for the pocket clip. And, yeah. So, here's the other thing. And if we're talking about, like, dependability of the hardware, because at some point, I've had some people argue with me, there's no reason to ever have to take apart a pocket knife. This one guy got so bent out of shape. He was like, talk about disassembly and cleaning. You should never have to take apart your knife, and I just thoroughly disagreed. In fact, if you want to make that argument with me, I'm going to thoroughly disagree with you. In fact, I'm probably not going to take the time to argue about it because I'm super stubborn and I think what I think, and it's based on my own experience with knives, which is generally the case with any individual on the planet. So that's just the way it is. We talk about ease of disassembly, durability of the hardware. I think the Sage line is going to have the better hardware. It also is a little bit more convenient because you don't have to switch out the bit. It's T8, T8, T8. And that's it. There's only one T8 screw holding in the pocket clip. On top of that, this has the lanyard barrel. People who've tried to take apart their PM2, their Manix 2, or their Para 3, they're nodding right now going, oh boy. Yeah, you're all nodding because it sucks. Dealing with that lanyard barrel and trying to get it off of there, I mean, yeah, it's possible. I've done it. For people wanting to say, I've done it, I can do it. Yeah, it's because it's possible. That doesn't mean it's not a pain in the butt. Nobody ever has taken apart one of these knives with that huge lipped barrel and done it exactly right the first time. If they tell you they have, they're lying. The first time anybody does that, they pretty much ruin it. Will it go back together? Yeah, but the barrel's going to be all dicked up and it's going to look like crap, right? Perhaps damaged beyond repair. Perhaps damaged to the point where you can't get the knife back together properly or it won't function properly. That's possible, right? It sucks. You don't have to worry about that at all with this guy. T8, T8, T8. Simple liner lock. Easy, man. Way easier. Now, arguably, is it totally necessary? All right, people halfway through their really detailed comment about the fact that it's not totally necessary, right? Because they didn't wait to hear if I talked about it. I'm joking around, guys. I love heading off negative comments. I just do. It's fun. And you guys like it when I do that too, even if you're the person leaving the negative comment. Yeah, it's actually not totally necessary to remove the scale from the lanyard barrel. The only time it's necessary is if you want to clean the lips. That's stupid. The only time it's necessary is if you're going to swap the scales out. That's it. Otherwise, you can unscrew this and just sort of scissor the knife open, right? Same from the other side. So it really comes down to convenience, number of, the total number of individual pieces of hardware. And this guy wins anyway. The fact that you don't have to switch out the bit, and it's only got 3 on each side, just wins. It's easier. It's just the way to go. Blade shape. Talked about ease of access to the hole. As you can see, I mean, we already talked about this, but just truthfully, the Spyderco PM2 or Para 3 is just ever so slightly taller. But because of the way that they cut this area out on the Sage, you have the same amount of access and room to the hole, and the hole is the same size on either knife. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that either of these knives is more or less convenient to access that hole, giggity, than the other one. They're just both easy, right? I mean, they're both easy to deploy. When it comes to the blade shape, though, I noticed something with this knife. I went out in my garage and I broke down some really thick boxes. We hung a bunch of shelves in our house here recently, and the boxes they came in were super thick. And so I broke them all down in the garage with this guy. And I've noticed this before a little bit, but it was mainly, bearing down it right here. If you're going to bear down and do a super heavy cut into thick cardboard, you want to be right behind that edge so you put the maximum pressure into the blade. Make the knife do most of the work for you. There's a pretty substantial hot spot, this hump right here, in the jimping, especially climbing the hump. That started to really wear on this part of my hand. The less aggressive that area of the knife is, the better. Now the problem is that this area of the Sage is actually sharper than this area of the Para 3, and that's because this area, this Para 3 is tumbled. Both of them are going to kind of hurt in that specific circumstance, right? So it's kind of a wash, in my opinion. When it comes down to, absolute edge performance, this is Spyderco's leaf-shaped blade. And this is Spyderco's, I don't know what they call it. Do they call it a clip point? I call it the Pelican Blade, because that's what I see. I see a pelican face. If you've never seen that before and I ruined it for you, I'm sorry. You're going to see a pelican every time you look at a PM2 or Para 3 from now on, or the Endura, or the Delica, or Indela, whatever. This blade is, I think these are both fairly similar. I want to say the Sage is 125 thousandths on the spine, and the Para 3 is 140 thousandths. See what I mean about there not being structure? That's why these videos last so long. It would actually take me longer to write a script for it than it would be to just record my thoughts in the moment. Almost 145 thousandths. And then your Sage, come on now, let's zero out. Why is the tape on there? To protect certain knives. I have knives that come into the channel that are worth well over $1,000, and I'm just not going to scratch them up. Why don't you buy different calipers? Because I don't want to, and that doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, this guy's coming in at sub 120,000, so it's actually much more substantial than I thought. What I'm getting at here is because of the shape of the blade, this tapers down to a tip, right? So out here, because it has less room to taper, I think it's actually a little bit thicker up here than it is back here. This performs well. The Para 3 performs well. It's not bad. It's fairly thin behind the edge. But this guy, no, this is a freaking laser beam. This is a way better performer. It's probably going to be more comfortable in most circumstances. You still have a tip. It's probably, honestly, out at the tip because of the shape of the Para 3 blade. Yeah, they're like almost exactly the same out at the tip. This is the better blade. Definitely. This is great, but this is better. It just is. Now, the liner lock is plenty strong. I mean, you know, we could probably beat that into the ground all day. Compression lock is probably the better lock. I mean, it's definitely better for ease of manipulation. And it's probably stronger. Why don't you take the time to test it? Because I don't want to, and that's not what I do on this channel. I think it's actually been proven that the compression lock is stronger than your average liner lock, right? I do prefer the compression lock. Even though we talked about this already, I do prefer it. This liner lock is done well. But would this knife be better with the compression lock? Well, yeah, it is. This is just easier to manipulate, right? It's great. Compression lock Sage is awesome. They just don't make exactly the right version of it yet. Both of these knives are just dancing around, right? It's like, you can get the Para 3 with the wire clip, but it has to be the lightweight version, which is in BD1N, which isn't as good as S30V or Maxamet or S110V or all the other versions it comes with, right? You can get a better steel, but you have to deal with the crappier pocket clip on the Para 3, and you probably need to buy an aftermarket one. You can get an insane, you know, an amazing version of the Sage, the Spyderco Sage with a great steel. But it's not going to have the freaking compression lock. You can get a version of the Sage and the compression lock and a pretty nice, you know, you can get it an FRN compression lock in S30V, but you have to deal with the freaking FRN. Or you can get it in a laminate carbon fiber, which is the dumbest version of that. I'm sorry if you own that knife and you love it. That's the dumbest version to be. Laminate carbon fiber and S30V, and they want 165 bucks for it. No. Make it full carbon fiber or make it G10. The laminate thing sucks. Or give me S90V on it or something better than just the standard. If you're going to charge me that. Anyways. So both of these knives are dancing around a perfect version, right? I built my perfect version, but it cost me the Para 3 Maxamet is 213 bucks. Actually, this was a gift, but it was a gift from my wife, so it still came out of the same bank account. Plus another 20 bucks for the pocket clip. So we're looking at $233 for this guy. This guy comes in at $206, and you can still buy this right now. Like I said, a lot of these will be listed down below. But it has the liner lock, which is pretty darn good. Still a solid A, right? Versus the A+ of the compression lock on the Spyderco. By the way, Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight and CTS BD1N comes in at $105. Cheapest of all of the variants. The Para 3 G10 and S30V comes in at $147, which is kind of, wow, pretty high. Like I said, Para 3 Maxamet, $213, but you have to deal with the standard clip, which is poo-poo town. That's what I say when I don't like something. And it's in a terrible position. The clip itself is not bad. It's the positioning is under the lanyard hole, which is awful. Sage 5 Lightweight, this guy right here, arguably the best value. S30V and the best setup stock. S30V, FRN, wire clip, $122. Sage 1 Maxamet, $206. Sage 5, and the Sage 1 is the liner lock, remember. Sage 5, carbon fiber, laminate, and S30V. Hope I'm right about that. If it is solid carbon fiber, let me know. I think it's a laminate. Most of the Taichung Taiwan stuff, which the Sage is Taichung Taiwan, it's the laminate. $163. I wish I had them all out here to compare. I think we've essentially talked about everything. So what's the best between these two, and what's the best out of all of them? The only thing holding this knife back from being basically perfect is the fact that it's using the liner lock and not the compression lock, truthfully. But the liner lock is still very good. Very, very good. This is like, it's excellent. It's just not as excellent as the compression lock, right? I'm not saying bad Sage 1, good Para 3. No. Really good. A little better. That's literally the only thing. Other than that, though, this is crazy. I've loved carrying my Spyderco Para 3 Maxamet. Maxamet's incredible, by the way. Here's the thing. It's plain and simple for Maxamet. If you are, decently experienced with sharpening, it's going to take a little bit, but you can resharpen Maxamet. Extremely high edge retention. The best edge retention of any steel that's commonly available in today's market. Did you know about Rex 121 and S125V? Yeah, I know about those. I do. Commonly available steels is what we're talking about. Maxamet's going to be the general king of the common world. I say common, you still don't see Maxamet on anything but a select few Spydercos. If you live in an area where corrosion is not a problem, Maxamet's great. If you live in an area where corrosion is a problem, don't get Maxamet. It's literally that black and white. As you can see here, I live in Kansas. I've had this knife for a year and a half. A light patina has formed, and that's about it. I clean this thing off, oil it up about once a month, right? So, between the Maxamet Spydercos, despite the Para 3 having the compression lock, to get the clip that you want, again, it's going to cost you a grand total of $233 to get exactly what I've got right here. Plus, you have to find this. This guy is pretty much good to go at $206. Are they still a little overpriced? Yeah, I think so. But I honestly think that the Sage 1 Maxamet is better than the Para 3 Maxamet. What's the best variant overall? Right? Personally, my favorite one is, I'll just take this, right? If you had the compression lock on this, it'd be the winner, hands down. Probably the best bang for your buck and the best overall for the average person looking at these knives is going to be the Sage 5 Lightweight. S30V, FRN, which I can choke down. It's not going to bother some people. Why do you say that? Why do you say why do you act like FRN is such a bad thing? I don't like the feel of plastic. I think G10 feels a little bit better considering we have to pay over $100 for all of these. FRN is plenty strong. Arguably, in some situations, I think it's actually stronger than G10. I just don't like how it feels. It doesn't feel like something that would come on a knife that costs over $100. But okay, it works pretty well, right? Anyways, S30V, compression lock, everything else is great. And the FRN is only going to be a problem for some people. The best version between all of these is probably this guy. Now, me personally, if they ever do a Sage 5 in G10 and whatever, right? Let's say they do a Sage 5 in G10 and S45 VN and they want $160 for it. Sold! Sold, sold, sold. You've already got my money, 100%. This is one of the greatest EDC folding knives in existence. That's crazy because I love this guy and I carry this more than anything. This is such a sleeper. These are insanely good. even if you do have to pay a little bit too much money for them. I love my Para 3. I love it, and I'm going to keep carrying it. But the Sage 1 and Sage 5 are two of the greatest EDC folding knives ever. Ever. I love this size. I love the fact that it's got, a choil. We didn't really talk about ergonomics, and that's because I think it's kind of straightforward. Both of these have excellent ergonomics. Choke up position, choke back position, chamfering is all excellent, right? Easy. These are easy knives to carry. There aren't really hot spots, even if you're looking at the Para 3 with the standard clip. It's not that bad. It definitely does need the better clip. I mean, that's going to be a better ergonomic experience, but even with the standard clip, it's really not that bad. Best between the Maxamet variants, Sage 1. Best overall, probably the Sage 5 lightweight. Very, very good. I hope this video included everything that you could possibly want in a video like this. I understand it was long. That's since I had about 500 subs. Those are the types of videos that I've been doing. And now that we're looking at 40,000, I'm going to assume the vast majority of people are pretty much okay with that. But I understand there's not everybody's going to want to sit around, through a 30-minute video. That's just what I like to do, right? And I'm going to keep doing it. So thank you so much to everybody who stuck around for the entirety of the video. I hope I helped some people make the right choice for them. Like I said, if you disagree with me, right, take the parts of these videos that apply to you and ignore the rest, right? You can't make a wrong choice. Honestly, between these especially, you can't make a wrong choice. In any case, I hope that this was mildly entertaining to you, at the very least. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.